here to talk about the fin de siècle. Week 11, jumping right in the middle. It's been a while, but we're going to get right to it. And we're going to answer the question, how did the fin de siècle cultural trends shape European society? So, although Darwinian theories were not at the forefront of human thoughts and innovations, Darwin's ideas of humans being animals affected the European psyche, and they sought distraction and self-introspection to fill their troubled minds. They really just, at the end of the century, were affected by Darwin's theories, and they sought distraction, and they really focused on just digging deep into themselves and finding a purpose outside of religion, outside of their community. And the three ways we see this is first, opulence and affluence, secondly, power and transience, and then thirdly, the finding yourself, the idea of finding yourself. So let's get a little historical backdrop. As we know, industrialization was happening starting in the 19th century, the 19th century, and kind of continues on throughout to the end of the 19th century. Darwin has already published his Origin of Species, which really impacts the European mind, and as fin de siècle literally means in French, it means the end of a century. So the fin de siècle was the end of the 19th century. People were looking back over the years of turmoil in Europe and all that had happened and being like, it's over, guys. And they were mourning this loss. And a little timeline starts with 1890, Escoffier becomes the head chef at the Savoy Hotel. Then 1897, Bram Stoker publishes Dracula. Also that year, Eric Satie writes Je te veux, the song. And then 1899, Freud comes along and writes the interpretation of dreams. And then 1913, Proust writes Swann's Way. So this is a little bit of the timeline, what's happening in Europe, So let's get into our first point before we run out of time. Opulence and affluence. Europe has reached its pinnacle. 1890s, colonial dominance. And yeah, Europe's taken over Africa, colonizing everything, stealing everything. And what does this bring? And then also there's relative political stability. So these two factors combined make an affluent upper class that are that don't care about a Christian worldview and that are intent on pursuing pleasure. Darwin's theory impacted and affected the European worldview, and people sought distraction, and they did this through pleasure, and they used their affluence to bring themselves pleasure. So Michael Hefferman says, much fin de siècle writing tended to assure that the passing of the 19th century would represent a fundamental historical discontinuity, a clear break with the past. He kind of sums it up perfectly. Before the fin de siècle is the Victorian era, which is really just a bunch of strict morality. People just want to follow these moral rules. And 1890s come, whew, pendulum swing. That was a really bad, it should be like this. It should be pendulum swing. Pendulum swing happens. Nobody cares about morality. And this time is called often referred to as the naughty 90s or the gay 90s. During this time, as I talked about in the background, industrialization had happened and was continuing to happen, and two very important innovations come out of the 1890s. Can you guess what they are? Of course, you got it right. It is electricity and the automobile. These two innovations change human society and humans as a whole. And then colonization happens also during this point, as I mentioned earlier. Europeans are extremely dominant in Africa. All the Europeans are like fighting over Africa and just extracting all these raw materials, and we see a lack of morality in this. Joseph Conrad's Heart of Darkness kind of depicts the Africans as these bestial, not really human creatures, and this kind of allows for the Europeans to say, great, since they're not humans, why does it matter that we go and take their goods and make them slaves? So yeah, through Conrad's book, and it kind of shows us the lack of morality during this time that allows for colonization. But with colonization and industrialization, in the 1890s, wages grew significantly, crazy amounts, 48% wage increase. And of course, what happens when people get more money? They have more to save, but also, wait, I didn't mean to say that. I don't know where I was going. They have more not to save, but to spend. They got all these stuff to spend, and their palms are kind of like, entertain me, I'll give you money. I don't really know what's going on today, but yeah, but that's basically the posture of Europeans. There's extreme affluence, and places like the Ritz come. If you've ever heard the term ritzy, this comes from the Ritz Hotel. This word, I guess the root word is from the Ritz, which was a place that was just, guys, if you want to see how the Europeans were distracting themselves in the 1890s from the turmoil, the inner turmoil that they were going through, just go to the frickin' Ritz. Like, people would just do everything to be distracted. There was just decorations everywhere. It's filled with beauty and distraction and entertainment. The food was just delectable. Everything was just like filled with like just money. But yeah, people like just wanted to spend their money, and they sought distraction during the 1890s. And people like Auguste Escoffier, the first celebrity chef, come along, and Auguste starts working as a chef when being a chef meant you were at the bottom of society. Like, nobody cared that you were a chef, but he turned it into this thing that it was like, oh, you're a chef, you must be like fancy and like rich. He turned it into this very like respectable career. And he did this at the Savoy and the Ritz Hotel, where he made dishes that were like decadent and rich, using ingredients like just all the butter and all the eggs and all the cheese, all the rich foods you could think of. But yeah, along with this affluent upper class, the middle class also grew, and there was a mass market production, and there was restaurants and department stores popping up and growing and rising in popularity in the 1890s. So industrialization leads to a shift to urban life and city centers, and Thomas Hardy writes about this during the 1890s, and kind of in his book Tests of the d'Urbervilles, he mourns the harmful effects of industrialization and urbanization on the lower class. Thomas Hardy says, time changes everything except something within us, which is always surprised by change. So that's opulence and affluence. Then let's talk about power and transience. Zenith. Zenith is a word that basically means the time when something is at its most powerful or most successful. So when you reach your zenith, it is this amazing, joyous moment when you are at the top of your game. But you know what that means? When you're at the tippity top, when you're at the pinnacle, you can't go any higher, hon. You just gotta go back down. And so this is happening in Europe. Europe, as I said previously, is at the peak of its dominance over the world. And there's one place to go, and that is down. So it's obviously bittersweet. And Arnold Bennett says, any change, even a change for the better, is always accompanied by its drawbacks and discomforts. So, there's just this power shift going on in the 1890s. People are realizing that the only place to go after up is down. Yeah. And there's also a change in gender roles. Bicycles give freedom to... What's there? There's like a light flashing behind me. Anyway, bicycles give women this newfounded freedom. They're able to go farther and faster than before, and the gender roles are getting less rigid. And the bicycle is kind of a symptom, a symbol of the woman's freedom. Yeah, equality. They weren't there yet. We're not there yet, but they were getting there. We're still not there. Yeah, anyway, no. And then Dracula is written by Bram Stoker, and it's a gothic horror novel that captures the mood of the 1890s Britain, and it's just this mood of just this kind of ominous change coming, and there's different perspectives in the novel about sexuality and gender relations and immigration. So Dracula kind of perfectly encapsulates what the mood was in the 1890s. Give it a read, guys. Give it a goog. And then lastly, the idea of finding yourself. People began to sink into themselves. They were just kind of like, woe is me, I need to figure myself out. And they kind of sought fulfillment in this. This is first seen in Freudian psychology and later in the arts. So Freudian psych theories and his writing of the interpretation of dreams in 1899 show and kind of theorize that our subconscious has a great impact on us. And Sigmund Freud says that, quote, the mind is like an iceberg. It floats with 1/7 of its bulk above water. So he's saying there's so much more of our subconscious to unlock that we have no idea about, but it's all underwater and we can uncover that. And Marcel Proust also believes this finding yourself and unlocking these unknown memories. And Marcel is a French novelist and author, and he writes the book In Search of Lost Time. One of the most famous moments is in the book. It's called the Madeleine moment, in which he describes his own experience of biting into Madeleine with his tea and just unlocking this emotional experience and memory that was just deep hidden within himself. And he says about the Madeleine experience, an exquisite pleasure had invaded my senses, something isolated, detached, with no suggestion of its origin. At once the vicissitudes of life had become indifferent to me, its disasters innocuous, its brevity illusory. Yeah, people are just, they want to find themselves. They want to discover their psyche and unlock their memories. And they also become discontent with society. The general mood is like, if we are just animals, like Darwin says, why do we have this construct of society? Why do we need it? People begin to question this and become discontent. Yeah, that is that movement and the idea of finding oneself. And so basically, in summary, the fin de siècle cultural trends shaped European society in three ways. First, through opulence and affluence. Second, through power and transience. And thirdly, through the idea of finding oneself. Thank you for watching. I hope that made sense. We're trying here. We're just trying to get through, you know? I don't know what that was for. I'm just... Guys, pray for me. That's all I can say. We're just... I don't know. Somebody's gonna watch this in 20 years and be like, this girl, not okay. No, I'm just gonna stop. I'm just gonna stop talking. Probably better for everyone. Yeah. Okay. Bye. Bye.